Lately, I've been finding myself unengaged yet distracted. I don't feel the same boredom that I used to when I was a young kid and the most engaging device in my household was the TV or video games. That true inner feeling of boredom where you don't even know what to do with yourself. Yeah, I have not felt that in a really long time. I find that nowadays, what would have normally been time spent in boredom for me has now turned into a lingering, persistent state of honestly, inner dread. In the early 2000s, before smartphones, channels got boring and TV got boring very, very quickly. But when I would feel this way, it would make me think hard about what it is I wanted to be doing. And although I was still just a little kid, I think what this boredom really instilled in me was the idea that I wanted to live my life engaged, immersed in what I was doing. My entire life, I've wanted to live engaged and switched on. And I think a large part of that comes from the deep understanding and the visceral feeling that I would get when I was bored as a kid. There'd be nothing on TV. I had already played all the video games I could have until boredom. So what was there to do? Well, the only thing that there was to do was walk around my house and think. I'd complain to my mom that I was bored and she'd yell at me for complaining, but in the boredom, when there was nothing else to do, it became apparent that what I really wanted, I wasn't getting. So it led me to search inwardly. And not only did it lead me to search for engagement, it led me to want to avoid this feeling of boredom at all costs. It showed me the frivolity, the emptiness of watching TV all day or playing video games all day or really pursuing pleasure all day. Because as a kid, you can truly pursue pleasure all day with almost no consequences. The only consequence, of course, being boredom. Now, this may sound strange, but I remember vividly always wanting to grow up when I was a kid. I wanted to grow up and wanted extra responsibility. I wanted my life in my hands because then I could live as I saw fit with no restrictions and never having to feel bored. More responsibility meant more control, and it meant I got to be in the driver's seat of my life 24/7. I could live and do exactly as I wanted. But recently, upon further examination, I find that I'm almost never bored in this same way that I used to feel as a kid. In fact, I don't remember the last time I was bored in that same way at all. However, truthfully, I've been feeling a sense of inner dread and borderline misery with what I've been doing, and yet I still couldn't pinpoint why. Now that I'm realizing it, I'm understanding the constant distraction of my phone and internet connected electronics is preventing me from viscerally feeling boredom and giving myself a sign that something needs to change. And it didn't really click with me until about 5 minutes before I started writing this video that you're watching right now, when I saw this tweet that got me thinking about boredom. So I began writing, and here we are, and now I'm recording. The most dangerous thing about carrying a phone everywhere is that you're never bored. Boredom, like pain, is a signal. Our bodies and brains are constantly giving us signals. We've been conditioned by society to ignore lots of them, but even worse now, we've been distracted from our mind and body's signals. Boredom being one of the first casualties of the smartphone era. With my mind totally distracted, it doesn't leave me time to process or even feel boredom. I don't get a long enough period of time to myself in silence to register that, hey dude, you're bored as fuck. Maybe what you're doing isn't cutting it. Maybe there's a feeling, or maybe there's something to explore here. But no, with all the different feeds reeling you in and distracting you long enough, you never get far enough into the thought of boredom to really do anything about it. In fact, I don't even feel the same sense of boredom I once did. Like I said earlier, it's a distracted yet inner sense of low buzzing, almost misery and dread, and I don't mean to say that to sound dramatic, that is in the background throughout your life. And yet you remain just distracted enough to never realize it. It's what's left over of boredom. But with all the distractions, input, and noise blasting our brains, the signal of boredom is drowned out and is getting harder and harder to find. While writing this video, I did some research on whether or not cavemen experienced boredom, and I found some compelling evidence to reveal that they very likely did not. Cavemen likely never experienced boredom because the natural state of humans is a state of engagement maximized for survival. We were never sitting idly by or trapped by imaginary constraints. Cavemen couldn't afford this luxury. They needed to be hypervigilant. They needed to be hypervigilant for threats and focus on their survival at all times. There was consequences to everything our ancestors did, so there was no time for boredom. One moment of distraction could be fatal. But nowadays, our reality is less physical than ever, meaning there are less consequences for our actions than ever. No consequences, no engagement. Why be engaged or focused on the task at hand when the consequences are very low? Why not just flutter from one distraction to the next? It's not like there's any immediate downside or physical consequences to doing so. And before you know it, you're totally addicted. The feeling of boredom slowly gets lost and distracted out of you. You're unengaged yet overstimulated, and then you're left with a sense of underlying misery and dread, and with no idea why. Consequences have gone totally out the window, and you've had no time to explore the feelings of boredom because they've been masked by all this distraction. And with the absence of boredom, you never have the pain, the kick in the ass to dive deep into the boredom, understand it, and figure out what in your life needs to change. It's funny that it's taken me years to circle back to the same exact conclusions that I had as a young kid, and the same conclusion being, I never want to be bored. I want all of my faculties engaged and focused on the task at hand. I want to lose myself in what I'm doing. I'd like to honestly achieve a state of no self. And I find that it's practically impossible to achieve this when I'm surrounded by distractions. Smartphones have cured boredom, but the real question is, was it a good idea to cure boredom in the first place? Boredom is often a sign that you're not engaged, you're not motivated, and your caveman brain is telling you that this is not an engaging or rewarding activity. And when I say that, I don't mean the woo-woo, be in the present bumper sticker slogan that people talk about. I simply mean that I'd like to lose myself in every moment, because more and more I realize that all of my problems lie within myself. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of the video. If you like this video, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a comment and let me know if you like this video or what else you'd like to see from me. Make sure you watch another video of mine here. I make pretty awesome videos, at least I'd like to think so. And make sure you follow me on Instagram if you want to hear more of my philosophical thoughts and you want to see more about my fashion, my lifestyle, and sort of the day-to-day of what I'm doing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys very soon.